Welcome to Mindshifters Radio. Today is Wednesday, June the 24th, 2026.
Working, you know. So the idea is that structuring your thoughts or sort of managing your mind is that I'm not sure if that's the way you put it. Um, that is that is all that this is. Like by doing that, you sort of focus your energy or sort of structure your thoughts or to create a kind of architecture for your mind, and that is what does you know the whole is that what the whole project is about?
Well, I wouldn't. No, no. That's one of the ultimate purposes of the work. But the work is about what it takes to get there. So it has to do with understanding who we are as human beings. It has to do with understanding how our physiology needs to be in alignment to function properly. As I said yesterday, there's an article that I wrote, healing from the ground up. It's about taking care of the soil that your food is grown in. If you don't do that, then you can't be nutritionally solvent. If you go in the grocery store and buy what's on the shelf, you'll never be fully healed. You'll never be fully realized because the food is more of a drug than it is food. So it's a whole broad spectrum of how do I deal with every aspect of my life? Like for instance, one of the words that's very maligned and misused in our culture is the word prayer. Now, most people think that prayer, because of the Greek misinterpretations, is putting your order into the cosmic gift catalog. You should pray every day. You should, tell God what God should be doing for you. And that's a total fallacy and fantasy. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with what the word prayer means in Aramaic, as Yeshua presented. The word prayer in Aramaic actually means, in Aramaic, to set a trap for God. And most people go, well, what the heck does that mean? That sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Well, yesterday I gave an example of tuning forks. I have a middle C tuning fork, and I hold it up in front of us, and I hit it on the desk, and I get it vibrating really strongly. And I put a second middle C tuning fork that's standing still in front of it. That second tuning fork is going to start to vibrate at a middle C. It is a trap for the energetic signal coming off of the primary tuning fork. Now, if I put a middle A tuning fork in front of a middle C tuning fork, I don't have a trap for middle C. Nothing's going to happen at middle A. If I put a B plus tuning fork in front of a middle C, nothing's going to happen because there's no resonance. The structure is not aligned to receive the energy coming off of that middle C tuning fork, and so it will do nothing. And so I could go through the whole scale of the music world, which I don't particularly understand, but I could go through every note in the whole musical scale, and there's only one that acts properly as a trap for the middle C signal or the middle C energy coming off of that primary tuning fork, and that's the one that is the right structure, the right alignment to capture that signal. In the ancient teachings, there's a phrase that says, in him, in the creator, we live, move, and have our being. So understood properly from the point of view of what it was meant to tell us, is the Aramaic language is a physics language, it's a physiological language, it's a psychological language, it's a genetic language. So when it says, in the creator's field, we live, move, and have our being, we look out and we say, oh, well, the planet's standing still, but scientifically we know that the Earth is traveling through space at about 7,000 miles an hour. If we are properly aligned to the tuning fork that we would call the creator, to the presence of love that we're created to be, by moving through the field of the creator, there's an exchange of energy. We capture that energy and we begin to vibrate in sympathetic resonance with the creator. Now that's what's called the state of prayer. We're capturing the energy in which we live, move, and have our being, and we become a reflection of it. We express it in the world. The Greeks reduced it to, tell God what God should be doing for you today. Get down on your knees, fold your hands. And so there's the whole objective of the work is to restructure our minds, which have been steeped in Greek philosophy and been called the teachings of Jesus, and return to the Aramaic understanding of everything. And virtually every important word in the Aramaic language taught by Yeshua, when the Greeks took it and translated it, and you listen to Greek scholars, biblical scholarship, and the Greeks will tell you, we wrote it down, it's ours, here is the original book of the teachings of Jesus in Greek. Well, the name of my new book is That's All Greek to Me. Jesus said, that's all Greek to me. That's a bunch of hooey. You got to be kidding me. So the whole body of work is about restructuring everything right down to our physiology to come into alignment with being the tuning fork, using that as a metaphor, that our physiology, literally the bony structure of our bodies, is like the structure of the tuning fork. And if it's been physically or emotionally traumatized, then it's out of alignment and will never function properly as a human being. So there's a whole process and a whole series of tools that we've developed in order to support people in being able to understand that. Oftentimes people ask a question, gee, I have this going on in my relationship, or this going on in my finances, or this going on in my body. What should I do about it? And I'll oftentimes say, well, I know you want a one-sentence answer, but you can't put all this into one sentence. So if you really want the answer to whatever question you ask, go back to day one of our radio show back in 2011 and listen to every hour, 5 days a week for the last 17 years. And then you'll have the brain cells to comprehend what we're talking about. It's a thorough and full restructuring of everything. Our thoughts, our emotions, our physiology, and making of this instrument we call a body-mind unit an appropriate place for the created essence of love to land. So there's no, oh, is it just about this? No, it's about all of the above. It's a very holistic program we're working with or have developed. Does that get to your question?
Right. I think. Well, I think I'm slowly parsing through everything. So, okay. So there seems to be underlying all of this, what you just shared, some kind of claim about the objective nature of reality. Like, how do we know that? Like, in order to to resonate with the frequency of the creator, or whatever you want to call it, we need to know what that frequency is in order to tune the tuning fork precisely to that frequency. How do we know what that frequency is? How do we know that that is the frequency of the creator? Like I'm just like, doesn't that seem beyond all testable, anything that can be testable, or there's a way to test for that? Because I find it interesting, all of the physical metaphors, and I kind of like that language, but I'm also kind of skeptical of it, precisely because I feel like it's my own territory.
Yep.
Right.
Got it. So it's testable. And here's the test. When you're moving through your life and you're holding your breath, you're out of alignment. And you watch people, the people that you see as patients, you watch that person before they get into that hyperbaric chamber. You watch that person You watch that person before you put the needle in their arm to draw blood. You watch them. And what are they doing? 99.9% of them are holding their breath. They're cut off. So one of the primary objectives of this work is to restore people to the breath. When you think of the creation story and you think of this body-mind unit, what we have is a piece of dust. You go to the creation story, the dust of the earth And the Creator breathed into that thing that was formed out of the dust. And the dust body, I would offer, has no intelligence whatsoever. Breathed into the nostrils, and man became a thinking, speaking being, is what it says in Aramaic. That the intelligence of life comes from our breath. And when we're holding our breath, we're in trouble. That's the most testable. You watch somebody and they're approaching this trauma or that trauma or this problem or that problem, and they're approaching it without breath and they're cut off. So that'd be one of the first places to look.
Right. So that is the, I don't know, like the telltale sign, like so that is all that you look at, like is that enough? Like so if you're holding your breath, that is that.
First order of business is take a breath and make sure that you're functioning from a space of connected love as you take that breath. That's where ultimately the power to rectify everything is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does make sense. I'm just not sure.
I mean, think of every client you've ever worked with. When they're in trauma, were they breathing?
No, I'm not. I'm not doubting that. I think that's
Okay.
reasonable enough. I'm just, I don't know. I think a part of my mind is just not, doesn't know whether that is proof enough. Like that is all that.
Oh, well,
Um,
knowing about it isn't the proof. Here's where the proof is. How often, when you face things, are you holding your breath? Here's where the proof is. When you discover yourself, when you become aware enough to notice you're holding your breath and you take a breath, watch what happens. That's where the proof is.
right. And so that is the way that we have to sort of align with the frequency of, you know, the creator, or
That's the number one key. Yes.
right. Yeah, but okay, now I'm thinking, so is that, but can't people do bad things while in that state? Like, can't people do bad things while not holding their breath? That, I think that's the part of my mind that the same part of my mind that doesn't quite believe yet that that's enough, is thinking that, okay, is that enough for us to produce good?
Well,
Because
notice I didn't say that was the end all and the be all. That's the starting point.
right,
You asked for a test. I'm telling you, that's
right,
one of the places where you'll find it, because when one is breathing, one is functioning from intelligence. You watch the guy who pulls the trigger and they're not breathing. You watch the man who hits the woman and he's not breathing. You watch the woman who screams at the man and she's not breathing. So that's a starting point. Now, again, as I said earlier, there's a whole body of work, and it's going to take a whole transformation process. What I'm hearing is, okay, give me the 5-word answer that helps me to understand everything. And if you want the answer to understand everything that we're talking about, here's where you start. 17 years ago, we did our first radio show. Listen to that, and then listen to every hour for the last 17 years, 5 days a week, and you'll have a grand comprehension of everything we're talking about. And whatever we do here in this show, we're going to scratch a little corner of it. And the idea of scratching the corners of it, as we do in every radio show, is to inspire, to bring support, and especially with the tools to give people an experience of, I was in rage and I decided to do this worksheet. And, the worksheet said, breathe, 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 breathe. What do you see? I've got the worksheet in front of me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times. I think it's on there more, but at least 4 times. So I did this worksheet process. I started out in rage and I did this workshop and I breathed and I looked at my goal and I canceled my goal. And I asked for support of my breath. And you know, I finished this worksheet and I had this flash of insight of an experience I had when I was 3. And my father was raging at me. And I just breathed through that. And I felt this warmth and this presence of love come over me. I feel better after doing that worksheet. Now, does that mean I've resolved everything in my life? No. I developed this worksheet 4.5 decades ago, first version of it. And I still do worksheets today. And some of the most important ones that I've done have been in the last 3 years in terms of my own internal personal process. So I can't hand you something that says, okay, now you've got it all in one. But I can hand you a number of tools and a number of insights with which you will create experiences that will take you along your path. And perhaps 60 years from now, you'll be talking to somebody and say, you know, I've been doing this work for 60 years. And what I'm realizing is that last worksheet I did was one of the most powerful and potent and important ones I did in my whole life. It's a process. It's not a destination. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's again, there's an initial contact point, and again, we've got many different worksheets, pardon me, many different pieces of the puzzle to offer, and each one is going to have to come in its own time. You know, there's a saying in the ancient teachings that says you can't storm the gates of the kingdom. Everybody wants to be there. Yes, yeah, I want this done. No, it's not going to be done. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just, sorry, I don't mean to challenge you or anything. It's just
No,
that
no,
I
yeah,
have lots of
challenge
questions
me.
about
No,
everything.
no, please. Every question you got, challenge me all you want. Tell me I'm full of bull on this idea or that, and then I'll explain to you why that idea is valid, and or if I find in my explanation, oh, there's a piece of bull in here, then I've learned something from you and I'll correct it, which happens often.
Yeah. Well, I'm just asking all of these questions because I find, I find the whole framework very interesting, and this is naturally I have, you know, curiosity about it.
I hear you. So what's your next question? Where are we going to go?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure
Okay.
that
Okay.
it's a lot of things.
Well,
But
I'll
I
just
don't
say,
want to, I know there are other people, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation. So, you know,
well,
um,
actually, that's a thought that a lot of people have. Oh, I don't deserve this time, or I don't need to take this time because there's somebody else here. But actually, what's going to happen, like in this conversation with you, until our conversation's finished, you've got 100% of my attention. Because what I know is everybody that's listening to the show right now is getting something from this conversation. And so we're here to serve you. When you're complete and somebody else comes in, they'll get 100% of our attention for as long as that's necessary. And each person in turn will do that. So if I think that what we did yesterday in our conversation so far is really, I appreciate your questions, and it's opened a space where we can explain things in maybe a little different way than we did yesterday. And oftentimes, one of the things that I discovered many years ago when I started doing this work was that in order for people to hear, there are many different ways that people learn information, or what I call build brain cells. And sometimes people will not comprehend it. They'll hear the same thing 40 times and they'll say, wow, I knew that and I've heard that before, but all of a sudden I understand it. And that's because it takes building brain cells. So the kind of interaction you and I are doing It's perfect for everybody that's listening, serving everybody, because it helps to build the brain cells for, oh, that's what that meant. Because the words don't mean anything. You know, if I say a set of words and you have a set of brain cells that are totally the opposite of my word. Well, let me give you an example. When I introduce the Aramaic language, I oftentimes use a little story, and I tell a story about this fellow who heard about one of our intensives and wanted to come to it from Russia. And I know that you're the best translator of Russian into English and English into Russian in the world. And I know you've got an extra room in your house, and you'd probably put this guy up, pick him up at the airport. So I ask you, would you, we got a guy that wants to come into Russia. He doesn't speak from Russia. He doesn't speak any English. Would you pick him up, translate for him, and house him? And you're like, oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to. At the end of the week, at the end of the intensive, I want you, if you would, because I still don't speak any Russian, I want you to communicate to this fellow that I think he's really cool. And so you turn to him in your best Russian and you tell him, Michael thinks you've got a low body temperature. You translated my words perfectly, but you didn't say a thing about what I meant. Until somebody has the brain cells for the meaning we're offering, they can hear the words a million times. They won't have a clue what I'm saying until the brain cells are there. So it takes this kind of interactive conversation, and people have to hang around long enough to build the brain cells to develop different meanings. Then, of course, if I say you're really cool, I could be referring to what I think of as your body temperature. Or I could be referring to the idiom of the word cool in the English language as an idiom for somebody I think is really great guy. The Aramaic language is rife with idioms. It's just filled with idioms. And until we build the brain cells for them, we can't hear. You listen to Yeshua, and go all the way back to Isaiah. It says, those who having ears, they do not hear, and those who having eyes, they do not perceive. And what in essence he's saying is, you got to have the brain cells before anything makes sense. And it only makes sense if it's coming from the same brain cells in me as it's coming from in you. If I don't have the brain cells you're speaking from, I'm not going to understand you, and vice versa. So it takes time hanging around with this work to develop the brain cells to even be able to have this conversation. So
May I interject, Michael?
Go for it, Rex.
Hi. Great conversation. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Great questions, Karl. I appreciate you. And I wanted to kind of
You're cutting out, Rex.
When I'm hearing Michael say, oh, I'm in the car. I apologize.
Okay, you're clear now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
You're clear now. Go ahead.
Could be easy. So
go for it.
What I want to say is, Karl, whatever is being shared with Michael and what he's communicating to you about the principles, you've heard from many different sources when you talk to Mitzi about anything, when you talk to me about anything, when you talk to Michael about anything. You will get variations of the same communication of the principles that he has spent time sharing with you. The reason they may seem new to you is because the languaging is different. That's what the Russian example is trying to articulate, I would say. And what I wanted to say is, the only way I've ever been able to really understand the material is doing the work.
Using the tools. You kind of cut out there at the end, Rex. But I think what I heard Rex saying is the only way he's ever been able to really understand the work is to use the tools, put the pen to the paper, and actually use the tool that we're talking about. Step into that mind flow management, the forgiveness process, the power person worksheet, the responsibility communication, et cetera, all the tools that we've got.
Exactly. And the reason it's so important is you've got to do all the different intensives that I've done, or the training that I've done with Mike, or with other teachers. But it does mean that if you take the work and you do the exercises daily, then your own divinity reveals to you what the answers are. Your own divinity reveals to you the truth of what you're truly learning. The intellectual part it feeds you, it helps because you're very intellectual. As me. But if I don't do the work every day, I won't learn the material. That's really what I want to say.
Right. And ultimately, and you were cutting out there a little bit again, Rex, but ultimately, it's doing the work that opens the ability for truth to be revealed to you, and it will only be revealed from within you. It'll never come from outside. It won't come from me. It won't come from Jesus. It won't come from anybody outside of you. It will come directly to you from within you if you are in alignment and receptive to whatever that is.
Does that make sense, Karl?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to doubt that with my, by asking those questions. It's just that I like to at least try to understand things before I sort of engage with them. But maybe this is one of those things where the understanding comes with the practice. It
It's
seems
a
like
dual
that's
process. It's a dual process. It will come by building the brain cells. Have a conversation. You ask a question. You can say, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. I'll use that tool," and then the tool will take you to a whole other level. And the in the ancient teachings, they spoke about it is the way the Greeks speak of it is that the Holy Spirit will reveal to you. But unfortunately, the Greeks and the Latins took the word breath out of the teachings of Yeshua and turned them into some kind of ghost, Holy Ghost, third party of the Trinity, Holy Spirit. There is no such thing in the Greek language, or pardon me, in the Aramaic language. That's all Greek. That's all Latin. You can look at the translation. You can go back when it speaks about where the passages where it says the Holy Spirit will give you these gifts. No, there are no gifts from the Holy Spirit because there's no Holy Spirit. The word there is breath. The gifts come from the breath. You have the key way to truth to be revealed, to move out of living in perception. There's some interesting Harvard research. I don't know if you run into this data or not yet, but there's some interesting Harvard research that says in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells are firing, they're literally measuring brain cell firings in someone, that the max amount of data that goes into conscious awareness is 9 bits of data, 9 bits out of 10,000
that's
brain
right. Yeah.
cells that are firing. Okay. It's been estimated in that time frame, which is about a 25th of a second, that in the actuality, we have perhaps 20 trillion bits of data happening. Your mind will never reveal to you the 20 trillion bits. All it can do is replicate what is stored in its carbon-based memory system, in its database. It is literally the mind that what people call the mind that most people function out of is literally artificial intelligence. You give it a prompt. What's a prompt? A goal. You set a goal. That goal activates and resonates what's stored in the database, and it comes forward with an answer. It's precisely artificial intelligence. Original intelligence lies in revelation. And the place where the revelation shows up is in that 9-bit space, which is usually filled by carbon-based memory. When you collapse that, which is done by removing the prompt, the goal, cancel the goal, the perception recruited from the artificial intelligence part of your mind collapses, and awareness can go into the deeper parts and clean that up. And then what happens is, if the breath continues, then revelation occurs. The information that fills the 9-bit mind with understanding and awareness comes from the actuality rather than from the artificial intelligence mind of man. And that's one of the objectives of this work, is to live 24/7, 365 in a revelation, that you're directly interacting, not through your past, not through carbon-based memory, not through your generational patterns, not through your speech patterns, not through your default hostility or fear, but you're literally accessing what's going on in the present moment directly from the actuality. And that's called revelation. We're designed to live in revelation. We're not designed to live in carbon-based memory. But the world teaches us carbon-based memory is the end-all and be-all. The intellect, that's it. And you'll hear me oftentimes on the show offer, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I'm 1,000% serious. In order to truly heal and function as a human being, you got to be out of your mind. That's part of it.
Right. Well, that's fascinating. Do you know if something, because you were mentioning the loss of the from the Aramaic to the Greek, right? I think the Greek is pneuma or pneuma, right? The
Pneuma, yes,
translate. Um,
yes. And then
you
the
know
Latins
some
took the word pneuma and they turned that into spiritus. So now
right,
we've gone from breath to some kind of spirit thing. Total
right, and
ripoff.
I think that's what the Germans call the Geist, right? The ghost or spirit.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Total,
you know,
complete misinterpretation.
I wonder if something similar happened with logos as well. Do you know if something similar
Yes,
happened with logos?
absolutely. Almost every important word that you could mention from the teachings of Yeshua, when you look at it in Greek, it's exactly backward. Yes, the word logos in Aramaic, the term, what it says is not in the beginning was the word, and the word became flesh, and the word was this man. In
Right.
Aramaic, what it says is in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. And what they've proven in the cell biologist laboratory is when you think a thought, appearing in your physiology is a neuropeptide, an actual molecule. That molecule circulates around in your structure till it finds a cell with a receptor site and that matches. It lands on the receptor site, and if we were inside the cell watching, we would see that neuropeptide, that thought, showing up in the cell literally as chemistry. We call what comes into the cell through that receptor site chemistry. Mind energy becomes flesh, becomes our physiology. We do mind energy based in hate and fear and rage and guilt and grief and drama and trauma and fear and rage, and our physiology becomes that. And the idea is to get to such a connected place of being, of love, where that presence of love transforms all of that. And actually, I see Joe Bryson is on with us. And Joe has been doing this work for, geez, Joe, I don't even know how many years, but I remember a particular case where Joe shared with me one of those moments of revelation or transformation. Joe, how do you be, sir?
Very good, very good. Can you hear me?
You're loud and clear. What's
Okay.
exciting in your world?
Well, a lot of different things. As usual, when you work towards living in revelation, it's every day's a wonder. There's so many wondrous things happen, and in the vein of what I'm hearing, uh, I would say first of all, what comes up for me is I can't eat an elephant all at once. I have to take it one bite at a time.
Right.
And if you're new to Michael's work, or any kind of, whether it's Byron Katie or any kind of work, any type of spiritual training, shall we say, you have to stick with it. I have to, I can't play in the World Cup. I'm just not that good a soccer player. But even the players that are in the World Cup soccer, they train, and they train every day and stay in a certain reality. And that's what we have to do. And that's what I've learned over the years from Michael, is that it's a never ending process, a never unveiling. And the one thing I would add is this, that there was a time my mother had passed, and I was at a workshop that Michael was having, what he calls an intensive. And there I was doing many worksheets. And so there was, as he puts it, as Jeannie puts it, I had, and I do have plenty of the brain cells now. But what was unique in this particular day, we had started the day off, and Michael was sharing some kind of information. But as I sat there listening, something happened to my lower back. I had always had lower back issues, my L4, L5. I'm 6'4". I'm good looking, and I know how to read. So,
Well, let's stick to the truth here now, Joe. That's the truth and only the truth. Okay.
I'm a triple threat, Mike. Come on, you know that. Anyway, the exciting part and the most interesting thing, that as I'm sitting there, I could literally feel in my lower back something moving and or reconnecting, shall we say. It was almost like plumbing. Things were moving, and it was so wonderful that ever since then, I have not had the same. I mean, I have some of the pain, but ever since then, I really let go. And what's exciting too is it happened. I was just sitting there, and this happened within me. I hear that a lot. Oh, this is going to come from within. Well, yeah. You spend your whole life with a lot of stuff coming from without, and then you realize, this isn't. This is a lot more effective if I let it come up from within. And that was a very effective day for me to let go of, whatever it was. And my mother had died, and there was just a lot of history there, and a lot of. I'm trying to think of the word that Michael uses. Just a lot of brain cells that I should have done this or I should have done that maybe, and just let it go. And that's another cliche. This aspect of letting go. I think the cul-de-sac. Well, I enjoy the cul-de-sac. In other words, I enjoy the why is this happening to me again? But I really love letting go. In other words, going through the cul-de-sac and finding a path and moving forward. And I hope that helps.
And Joe, that was an Oak Island intensive. That's what, about 12 years ago?
Yeah.
And
Oak Island.
your back has not been this like you experienced. I can remember you telling me about it initially, and just what a physiological transformation took place, and the level, location, intensity, the pain. I mean, was literally physiological restructuring. If somebody were in there looking with an X-ray machine and watching what was happening, doing an MRI, they'd have seen tissue reorganizing itself as my offering, because physiologically, you've never been the same since, right?
Right. And I would sit here now and say, wow, Michael just shared with me something that even now I doubt. But there I was sitting on that couch, and it was happening, and it's happened. I mean, I can move much different. Again, it's another one of those things where when revelation takes place, it certainly is a splashdown and this opening, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a new way. This is a new path of thinking, and I am healed, which is. It was such an interesting paradigm shift for me. I'll never forget it. And much like the first time, I think that was the first intensive I went to. I had an experience there as well, which was just the experience was such that I felt I was in a container of love, that there was no judgment about me or who I was. The baggage that I had, I could put it down, and it was just a wonderful experience. And I'll another one of those are the two experiences that I've had with Michael and and the work, and continue to this day to just want to. And it's funny because now when I talk to Michael, we typically wind up in the place of being. Oh, you're just being. Like, oh yeah, just be Joe. That's it. Just be whoever you are, and know that you are. I go back to the Course in Miracles comes up, and all the work that I've done there. So I hope that helps.
Cool. Yeah, right on. Thank you, Joe. That's opens a space for another level in that. It can be difficult when we've been taught to believe in a material world, which, by the way, if we listen to Einstein, he says, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy whose vibration have been so low as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. There is no material world. Our brain makes it look like material, but if we could stop the images generated by our mind and see what was actually in front of us, we'd see this whirring mass of electrons, protons, neutrons, neutrinos, and light. We wouldn't see matter. And that matter obeys certain laws. And a major part of that law is what we do with our minds. And so cleaning up our minds changes literally what's the matter.
And it really is pathways. The worksheet puts me on a pathway, puts me on a method. There are other methods, but this
Yep.
one can resonate so strongly for me that it's just day in, day out, 365, doing another worksheet, and you know there's nothing in my experience. There's nothing better. So it's again, but don't try to. And I know so many people. Oh, I got to eat this elephant. You know, yeah, so do I. But I can't eat it all at once. It just doesn't work. And, you know, I wish it did, but I've got to be patient. And I've got to be, you know, and hand in hand with patience is love. To love me, to love who I am, what I am, to be in the wonder of this life experience. It's fantastic.
Well, Joe, I promise that I don't love you and I never will love you, but I certainly commit to being the presence of love and supporting you doing the same at every instant of our lives together.
You know what? I certainly do appreciate that course correction, but it only makes me want to dance, Michael. I mean, that's all there is to it. I can't
Go
help
for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. I got a video of you doing that.
Gotta go. Bye, guys.
Okay, blessings. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you. So open floor. Karl, is that making sense? Any other thoughts for you or anyone else have anything to add? Anything to share based on our conversation?
Hey everybody, it's Mitzi.
Welcome, young lady. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm well, thank you. I just wanted
Awesome.
to greet Karl and the rest of the team and say hello. I missed yesterday. I was out and about, but I'm grateful to see you here, Karl. And everybody, of course. That's all.
Sweet. Anything exciting to share based in the conversation we're having? That was the question for you, Mitzi, if you're still there.
I apologize. I muted myself again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just am chuckling at Joe's analogy of eating the elephant and how there was just a time when I just thought it could be sooner, right? Like there's like, well, surely I'll go to this intensive and then I'll be better when I leave, or I'll have this. But it's like you can't turn the Titanic on a dime, basically. So but every breath, every goal canceled, every choice to sit down and do a worksheet or correct my mind when it tells me a lie, every one of those just incrementally brings a sense of peace and joy that isn't available in the world of lies. So yeah. So it is a path of, just every day here and there. Rex and I still manage to correct each other from time to time, like, what did you just say? Are you sure you meant that, or whatever? And it's just slow progress, but in my mind, what else is there to do? I mean, really, while we're here, sure, life is full and we're busy, but in terms of our the building the brain cells and managing the overall direction of where we're going, yeah, I'm grateful.
I hear you. And, one of the things that life is about when people tell me, oh, this terrible thing happened, that terrible thing, this terrible thing happened. It's like, oh, you mean life gave you an opportunity to learn forgiveness? Because if you think something terrible happened and you're in pain about it, the pain is something happening in your physiology. It has to do with your thoughts, your mind. It doesn't have to do with what happened in the world. And so when we
Right.
take those as opportunities to learn forgiveness and shift and change the internal dynamic, through changing the internal dynamic, because we are resonating energy fields, we change the external world, what we call the external world. So it's definitely a process.
Yes, and I'll say as well, since the last the I'm drawing a blank. Oh, the quantum still point session that you and I did in April.
Right.
I'm not even sure how to put words to that, but well, obviously the physical pain that I experienced prior to has subsided, and that I have great relief from that. I would just say boundaries are different. My vision, and I'm not really talking about vision with my glasses, but maybe I haven't had my eyes checked, but just things just seem sharper and clearer. And I can only attribute that to adjusting the antenna again, right? Like getting the antenna, it's the frequency adjustment. And that now I'm just seeing more clearly is the best way to put it without
I hear you.
having a lot of language for it. But
Yeah.
I would encourage
Well,
anyone who has the if you're noodling it, I would encourage a person to consider it as a gift to yourself, to consider the 3-day still point. Yeah, I'm grateful for it, and for you and Jeannie and the work you're doing and the whole team here. Just a great family of support, and I appreciate it, everybody. And I'm grateful to hear your voice, Karl. I look forward to speaking with you soon.
And delight to have you here and on the team too. And besides adjusting the antenna, one of the other pieces of the puzzle in that quantum still point, if you remember the idea of how sound affects matter, creating a point of egress for all the drama, trauma that's been verbalized and literally put into our nervous system, literally injected through the voice. You know, there are two branches of the vagus nerve, which basically runs everything to do with healing, rest, and digestion in the body. Two branches of it come right through the voice box, and everything we say is literally vibratorily injected into that system. And so another important reason for that clarity being there is that the pathway is given for the egress of all of that drama and trauma. And that changes everything, even the carbon-based memory feeds us. So yeah, I'm with you.
I'm not sure I even understood what you just said exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I heard it, but it wasn't relating it to the quantum healing experience. Unless you're talking just about the vocalization that came.
No, it's more than that. If
Okay.
we when we finish the show, if everybody wants to understand more, go to YouTube and just put in the word cymatics and look at a few cymatic videos. And the word cymatics represents the way that sound influences matter. One of the most popular, and most everybody's seen it, visuals of this is you've seen a drum head where they poured some sand on it, and there's sand laying on a drum head. And all of a sudden they turn a speaker on, and they have the speaker adjusted to put out a certain frequency. And all of a sudden those grains of sand start to dance and move, and they form a geometric pattern. This is like amazing. And then when you change the frequency of that sound being poured into the drum head, all of a sudden sand becomes a totally different geometric shape. And it's like, wow, instant transformation. Well, literally, when you think of cymatic influence, when you think of the words, in the beginning was the mind energy, and they used word because it's words that we bring our mind energy into our physiology with. And the place where that tends to get locked up for people is right there at the core of the antenna. And every word we speak is being cymatically introduced through the vagus nerve, through the branch of the vagus nerve in the voice box, into physiology. Part of the quantum still point experience is reopening the pathway for that energy to find a way to be released, for that energy to be removed. Does that make more sense?
Yes. Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the long and short of it. What do you think, Karl?
About your last explanation, or about the whole
About
inter
anything, wherever it goes for you.
right. Um, yeah, so let me just respond to Mitzi. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was great hearing your voice as well. And I hope to talk soon. And I loved what Joe had to share. He seems to be quite a character, very funny. Um,
Oh, he's a character, all right.
um,
We've been playing for a couple of decades now. We always kibitz back and forth.
right. Um, I don't know if I have much to share other than, something that just crossed my mind, and I don't know, just thought out, um, run it by you as, I was watching, I think it was, 2 days ago, this guy on TV, he was sharing a story about, um, his upbringing and everything, and he was sharing that it was quite an odyssey in a sense, because he was adopted by two families, first adopted by one family, and then they had to, the person who adopted him died, and then they found somebody else to adopt him. And the first thing, like when he was given the space on TV to talk about his mom, um, the first thing he said was that he was very grateful for his mother, to his mother, because
Mhm.
she buried him inside her for 9 full months, and then
Right.
found somebody else to take care of him when she couldn't. And that was really interesting. Like that sounded, and I wonder if this is part of, I don't know, like one of the ways that I'm trying to make sense of this is, it seems like, I'm not sure if he was sort of naturally inclined to think that from the beginning, or if he went through some kind of reframing process. But anyhow, he that seems to be, to me at least, like one way in which this sort of approaching everything from a place of love, um I don't know, one instance in which that could manifest, like the one way in which that could be taken as an example of that, right? Um Instead of like looking at the negative, like, he could easily, it would be very easy for him to blame her, right? Or to, I don't know, to
Right.
find all kinds of faults with her. But instead he
Yes.
focused on, you know, the merits. It- and I wonder if that is one of the ways in which this framework sort of manifests, like the whole reframing that you sort of naturally, that is sort of bound to happen once you sort of go through the process of reframing.
What happens is that your whole reality structure, you know, many people, just quickly, I think about when you share that, I think about one young man that came to an intensive, this is years ago, and he was a very angry young man, very like just everything he was angry about it. And his father, when he was very young, abandoned him. And he just hated and had rage toward his father and never communicated with his father. And as a result of the intensive, he softened, and his assignment when he left the intensive was to communicate with his father. And he did. And he came back to me, very tearfully. And he's like, all these years I hated my father for leaving. And I just had a conversation with him, and he shared with me why he left. And he said my father had been so horribly abused that he couldn't imagine doing anything other than being abusive toward his son because he was so angry. And so he left so he wouldn't abuse me. He didn't abandon me. I just changed his whole reality structure, changed everything. And the idea is here that anything that's based in hostility or fear that the human mind generates is based in corrupt data and a lie. And so when we forgive the lies, then we start to tap into the presence of love that is behind all of it. even as twisted as things get, that there's a resolution when breath delivers love to the cell where trauma is stored and the cell is healed. Does that make sense?
Right. So even like the worst, like even bad things that people do, you would say that also applies to those things.
Well, when we talk about bad, I mean, most people would say his father abandoned his kid. That's a bad thing. Well,
Right.
the
But I,
father,
but I mean,
was,
go ahead.
well, the father was aware enough to know that staying would have been the bad thing. And letting go of, at that point, for him to be a father was the release for his son. So again, the objective is to recognize when breath and love are present, everything based in war, everything based in hostility or fear is transformed. And it gives us an opportunity to do something differently. And by the way, I just put a set of instructions in the chat. If you want to copy that, there's a link on YouTube to the instructions for the reality management forgiveness process for how to do that. So if you want to copy that link, then it's there in the chat room. And beyond that, delightful to have a conversation with you. And I look forward to having many more conversations in the future, Karl. And everyone, thank you for joining us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life and blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.